My name is C. Radhakrishna. I am working as senior lecturer in chemistry at Government Polytechnic, Gadwal. We have started electrochemistry. Today, let us see the electrolysis examples of electrolysis. In the last class, we have seen Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation and electrolysis. These two things we have seen. And today, let us see the examples for the electrolysis, that is electrolysis of fused sodium chloride and electrolysis of sodium chloride solution. Both these things let's try to learn today in today's class. And before this, and we shall also learn about Faraday's laws also. We shall also learn Faraday's laws also in this class. Before this, let's try to recapitulate what we have learned in the last class. Okay. We have learned Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation. What did it say? What are its postulates? Arrhenius theory states that whenever an electrolyte is dissolved in aqueous solution, it dissociates into constituent ions. Okay, dissociates into constituent ions. The positively charged ion is called cation, and the negatively charged ion is called anion. The total charge on all the cations in the solution is equal to the total negative charge present on all the anions. For example, if H2SO4 dissociates into 2H plus plus and SO4 2 minus. Okay, imagine 100 molecules of H2SO4 you have dissolved in water. Okay, so 100 for each H2SO4 molecule, 2 H plus ions are being formed. For 100 H2SO4 molecules, there will be how many will be formed? Obviously, 100 into 2, 200 H plus ions will be formed. 200 H plus ions will be formed. So, 200 positive charges are there, and 100 for each H2SO4 molecule dissociated. One molecule of sulfate ion is released. One sulfate ion is released. Sulfate ion. So 100 molecules of H2SO4 dissociate to form 100 SO4 2 minus ions. The total charge, negative charge is 100 into minus 2, that is minus 200. There are 200 positive charges in the solution and 200 negative charges are also present in the solution. So overall the solution positive charge balances the negative charge, and hence the overall solution will be electrically neutral. Okay, the overall solution tends to remain electrically neutral. Okay, undissociated molecules will be in equilibrium with the dissociated ions. There exists an equilibrium between undissociated molecules and dissociated ions. That means the dissociated ions keep on combining to form undissociated molecules, whereas the undissociated molecules will keep on dissociating. This process is a dynamic equilibrium. This process goes on in the solution. Okay. He further said that the properties of solution is the same as the properties of ions present. Okay, properties of solution is same as the properties of the ions. So here, for example, if you take copper sulfate solution, hydrated cupric ion is blue in color. If you dissolve cupric sulfate in water, the cupric ions become hydrated and the entire solution turns to blue in color. So, what is the solution exhibiting? The solution is exhibiting the color of the cupric ion which is present in the water. Okay. So, this goes to prove that the properties of solution is the same as that of the properties of ions. Okay. And conductivity of a solution depends upon the number of ions present in the solution. Okay. The more is the number of the ions present, because these ions carry electricity from one towards oppositely charged electrodes when the electricity is passed. So the conductivity is dependent upon the ions. Okay. So the more is the number of ions, more will be the conductivity. The fewer is the number of ions, the fewer will be the conductivity, electrical conductivity. Because of this, strong electrolytes which undergo almost complete ionization even at moderate concentrations will exhibit a higher conductivity in aqueous solutions. Okay, because they undergo 70% ionization. For example, if we take 100 molecules of HCl, all the 100 will dissociate and give rise to 100 H plus and 100 Cl minus ions. Whereas weak electrolytes undergo incomplete or partial ionization to give rise to fewer number of ions. For example, acetic acid you take, it dissociates into acetate ions, CH3COO minus ion and H plus ions. If you take 100 acetic acid molecules, only 30 or 40 will dissociate and 30 H plus ions and 30 acetate ions are formed. Okay, if 40 are dissociated, 40 acetate ions and 40 H plus ions are formed. So we have already seen that conductivity is proportional to the number of ions present. Okay, we have already seen, right? Here, in the case of acetic acid, which is a weak acid, the number of ions is fewer, lesser. So, since the conductivity depends upon the number of ions, the conductivity of a weak electrolyte is lesser. Okay, conductivity depends upon the depends upon the nature of the substances. A strong electrolyte forms more number of ions and higher conductivity. A weak electrolyte forms fewer number of ions and lesser conductivity. Okay, and also conductivity also depends upon the temperature. Okay, the more is the temperature, the faster will be the mobility or movement of ions towards electrodes, oppositely charged electrodes, and the higher will be the conductivity. So with increasing temperature, conductivity will also increase. Okay, conductivity also depends upon the concentration or dilution. With increasing dilution or decreasing concentration of the solution, the conductivity will also increase. Okay, conductivity will also increase. Conductivity increases with the increasing the dilution. Okay, at infinite dilution, conductivity is equal to unity. Conductivity increases. Okay, so also the final point is the degree of dissociation. Okay, the degree of dissociation. Degree of, say, in a class 50 students are present. Imagine 100 students are present in a class. 40 students have passed in the examination. So what is the pass percentage? The number of students passed by total number. Okay, it's total number of students appeared, right? So 40 by 100. Likewise, here also the degree of dissociation is just like your percentage. Here degree of dissociation is the number of molecules dissociated by, it's a ratio of number of molecules dissociated by total number of molecules taken. Okay, that is called as degree of dissociation. Okay, the more number of molecules dissociated, the higher will be the degree of dissociation, and degree of dissociation will be denoted by alpha. Okay, degree of dissociation also increases with the increasing dilution. Degree of dissociation increases with the increasing dilution, because with increasing dilution, okay, the dissociation will also increase, turning it to ions will also increase. Okay, so degree of dissociation will also increase with increasing dilution. At infinite dilution, the degree of dissociation or degree of ionization as approaches unity. Okay, this is about Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation. Then we have defined, we have seen what electrolysis is. Electro means electricity. Lysis means decomposition or destruction or devastation. Okay, so the decomposition of electrolyte which is brought about, which is caused by or brought about by passage of electricity is called as electrolysis. Broadly you can say that that as electrolysis. It is decomposition or decomposition of electrolyte caused by the passage of electricity. When does electrolyte allow electricity to pass through it? Electrolyte passes electricity only in two situations, two forms. One in the dissolved solution as well as in the fused state, two states. Okay, So we can define electrolysis as the decomposition of an electrolyte by the passage of electricity in a fused state or in solution. This is defined as electrolysis. Electrolysis will be conducted in the special vessels, okay, special vessels, and electrolysis, to carry out electrolysis, the solution, electrolyte solution, is taken in a vessel, usually quartz vessel, and two electrodes, metal rods are electrodes, which are also called as electrodes. Electrodes are dipped into the solution. They are connected with the terminals of the external EMF like battery. Okay. When the electricity is passed, these metal rods or electrodes assume charge. Okay. One electrode assumes a negative charge, the other gets a positive charge. Okay. When the electricity is passed, the ions present in the solution move towards opposite charged electrodes. The cations move towards cations which are positively charged move towards cathode. Okay, move towards cathode which is negatively charged. There they absorb electrons from the cathode and turn into neutral ions. Okay, neutral ions. So since they are absorbing electrons, gaining of electrons is called as reduction. Reduction reaction takes place at the cathode. Okay. Likewise, when the electricity is passed, the anions, what charge do anions carry? Anions carry negative charge. So the negatively charged anions will move towards positively charged electrode, which is called as anode. Okay, positively charged electrode, which is called anode. So they travel there. These anions have extra electrons, not only their own electrons, but they have absorbed extra electrons to turn into, to gain negative charge, right? So at the anode they lose or give up these electrons and turn into their elemental state. Loss of electrons, we defined it as oxidation. So oxidation reaction is taking place at the anode. So with the passage of electricity, chemical reactions are taking place. Okay, we are carrying out chemical reactions by passing electricity through the electrolytic solution. So this state, this affair, or what's happening can be explained as the electrical energy is being converted into chemical energy. Since we are using electrical energy to carry out chemical reactions, in other words, we can say that electrical energy is being converted into chemical energy. Electrical energy is being converted into chemical energy. That's what we can safely say. This is about electrolysis. Okay. In the last class, we have learned Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation. We have just checked, recollected the whole thing, as well as the electrolysis also. Now we will see the examples for electrolysis before going for Faraday's laws of electrolysis. Okay. Okay. Electrolysis, two examples we will consider here. One is electrolysis of fused sodium chloride. Okay. Say sodium chloride solid is taken. If it is heated in a quartz vessel, imagine it is heated to very high temperature, it turns from solid state to liquid state because of the breakage of the bonds between the ions. Okay. Now these ions are free to move. Okay. So electrolysis of fused NaCl is done. NaCl is fused. The hot NaCl taken in the liquid state is taken in a quartz vessel, and platinum electrodes are dipped into this. Okay. And when the electricity is passed, chlorine gas, that is negatively charged Cl chloride ions, move towards anode, and there they give up their electrons and turn into chlorine gas. Chlorine gas evolves at the anode. Likewise, positively charged sodium ions go to the cathode. They pick up electrons. Okay, they pick up electrons from the cathode and turn into sodium metal, and sodium metal is deposited at the cathode. So two things are happening by the passage of electricity through the fused sodium chloride. Okay, so at cathode, at anode, chlorine gas is being liberated. At anode, sodium metal is getting deposited. The mechanism of electrolysis is NaCl on fusion dissociates into constituent ions. Okay, 2 NaCl gives 2 Na plus 2 Cl minus. This process is called as dissociation or otherwise ionization also. Okay, as I mentioned to you, these sodium ions will move towards the cathode. Since they are positively charged, they move towards the negatively charged cathode. There they gain electrons and turn into 2 Na plus 2 electrons gives rise to 2 sodium ions, 2 sodium atoms at the cathode. Since here electrons are being picked up or being absorbed, we call this as reduction. This process is called as reduction. The negatively charged chloride ions will move towards positively charged anode. There they lose their electrons. There they lose their electrons. Okay, their extra electron. See, each chlorine atom is having an extra electron which is gained from the sodium atom. Okay, actually in the formation of sodium chloride, sodium having very low ionization energy, it loses an electron to gain neon configuration and turns into Na plus ion. Okay, and we are seeing this in the form when we discussed the formation of ionic bond. Okay, likewise chlorine, its atomic number is 17. Okay, in its outermost orbit it has got 3s2 3p5 electrons. It needs one more electron to gain nearest inert gas argon's configuration, that is octet configuration. Sodium gets octet configuration, that of neon configuration, by turning into Na plus ion, while chlorine gains an electron, takes up an electron from the sodium, and it also gets a 3s2 3p6 configuration, octet configuration, the configuration of argon, so it becomes stable. Okay, so chlorine has got an extra electron in the formation of ionic bond, during the formation of ionic bond. So to turn into chlorine element or Cl2 gas, it has to lose its electrons. So it moves towards positive charge anode. There it gives up its electrons and turns into chlorine gas. So chlorine gas is evolved at the anode during the electrolysis of fused sodium chloride, whereas sodium metal is deposited at the cathode during the electrolysis of fused sodium chloride. Okay, since here chlorine is losing electrons. Okay, since here chlorine is losing electrons, this reaction is called as oxidation reaction. Loss of electrons we defined as oxidation, gain of electrons we defined as reduction previously. There should not be any confusion, remember it properly. So the net reaction is 2NaCl is sodium chloride is 2 molecular sodium chloride is decomposing or dissociating into, separating into 2 sodium atoms and chlorine gas, Cl2 gas. Okay, so net reaction is decomposition. Since the sodium chloride molecule is decomposing into constituent elements, how is it happening? It is happening by the passage of electricity through the molten or fused sodium chloride. Molten or fused sodium chloride. This reaction is called, this process is called as electrolysis. That is the decomposition brought about by passage of electricity. So this serves as example of electrolysis. Let us see the diagram also here. Electrolysis of molten sodium chloride. Okay, here you can see the diagram. Okay, you have taken molten sodium chloride here. Okay, it contains sodium ions and chloride ions. Sodium ions and chloride ions. Okay, at the negative charge, okay, at the negative electrode, platinum electrodes are dipped into the solution. Okay, so one platinum electrode bears negative charge, that we call as cathode. Another platinum electrode bears positive charge, which we call as anode. At the At the cathodic half cell, that is cathode, okay, at the solid half cell, at the cathode which is bearing negative charge, positively charged sodium ions come together and they pick up an electron to turn into sodium atom, okay, sodium atom. This is actually reduction reaction, and at the positively charged anode, two chloride ions go there and give up their two electrons to turn into Cl2 gas. So chlorine gas is evolving at anode, while sodium metal is diverging at cathode. Okay, this is the reaction diagram of sodium chloride. In the examination, you will have to draw this diagram and label the parts. See, these electrodes are connected to external battery, external EMF, two terminals of external EMF. Okay. Now we'll move on to electrolysis of aqueous solution of sodium chloride. What we have seen is sodium chloride, fused sodium chloride. It contains only sodium ions and chloride ions. Now what we have seen is we have come to is electrolysis of aqueous solution of sodium chloride. That is here sodium chloride is dissolved in water. Okay, sodium chloride is dissolved in water, and when dissolved in water, it turns into again sodium ions, dissociates into sodium ions and chloride ions, that we call as ionization. Okay, electrolysis of actual solution of sodium chloride by using platinum electrodes gives chlorine gas at anode and hydrogen gas at cathode. NaOH is formed in the cell. Okay, we'll see. Okay, here sodium chloride dissociates into Na plus and Cl minus ions. 2 sodium chloride gives 2 Na plus and 2 Cl minus ions. Okay, this we call as ionization. The same as we discussed in the electrolysis of fused sodium chloride. But here you have dissolved sodium chloride in water. Water also ionizes into H plus and OH minus. 2H2O gives 2H plus and 2OH minus. Okay. So here you have got in the solution, aqueous solution of sodium chloride, two positively charged ions, that is Na plus ion and H plus ion, and two negatively charged ions, okay, that is Cl minus ion and OH minus ion. Okay. So when electricity is passed, there is competition between these positively charged ions. There is competition between positively charged ions to discharge at the electrode. Okay, to discharge at the electrode. So both sodium ions as well as hydrogen ions compete at cathode. Both of them come to cathode and they compete at cathode for liberation, for discharging. Likewise, chloride ions as well as hydroxyl ions, both of them will go to the anode, negative positively charged anode, and they compete between themselves for the discharging, to liberate, okay, to become into elements. So which will win the race? That depends upon the discharge potential. Okay, discharge potential of sodium, discharge potential of H plus ion, discharge potential of Cl minus ion, discharge potential of OH minus ion. So the general rule is okay. The general rule is when there is two or more ions competing for the discharging at the electrode during the process of electrolysis, the ion with a lower discharge potential, will be liberated at the electrode. Okay, the ion with a lower discharge potential will be liberated at the electrode. Okay, according to this rule, if you see between chloride ion and hydroxyl ion, chloride ion has a lower discharge potential. Chloride ion has a lower discharge potential. So it loses its electrons at the anode and turns into chlorine gas. Okay, undergoes oxidation and liberated as chlorine gas, because the discharge potential of chloride ions is lower. Okay, discharge potential of chloride ions is lower than that of the hydroxyl ions. So hydroxyl ions take more time. Okay, so first chloride ions turn into, they undergo oxidation, lose their electrons, and chlorine gas is liberated because the discharge potential of chloride ions is lower than that of hydroxyl ions. Likewise at the cathode also there is competition between sodium ions and H plus ions. Both go to the cathode, and both of them want to get discharged. Here between the sodium ions and hydrogen ions, okay, between the sodium ions and hydrogen ions, the discharge potential of hydrogen ions is far less than that of sodium ions. Okay, they will be liberated at a lower potential. The discharge potential of H plus ions is lower, so they go to the anode, they absorb electrons, so 2H plus 2 electrons, they pick up 2 electrons, 2H plus ions will pick up 2 electrons and turn into hydrogen gas, and hydrogen gas is liberated at the anode, at the cathode. Hydrogen gas is liberated at the cathode, whereas chlorine gas is liberated at the anode. Okay, so here the general rule is whenever two or more ions compete at the electrode during electrolysis for discharge, though the ion with a lower discharge potential will be liberated first or discharged first. Okay, so in accordance with this, the chlorine which has lower discharge potential is liberated at the anode, and the hydrogen gas is liberated at which has got lower discharge potential is liberated at the cathode. In the solution you have sodium ions and hydroxyl ions left over. These will combine to give sodium hydroxide, to form sodium hydroxide. So electrolysis of sodium hydroxide, NaOH is manufactured by the electrolysis of sodium hydroxide. The overall reaction we can depict as 2 NaCl plus 2 H2O gives H2 gas liberated at the cathode, chlorine gas liberated at the anode, plus 2 NaOH. This NaOH, sodium hydroxide, is formed in the solution. Okay, this is what is happening in the electrolysis of aqueous sodium chloride. So in the electrolysis of fused sodium chloride, chlorine gas is liberated at the anode while sodium ions are discharged at the cathode. There is no issue at all because only two ions are there, one positively and one negatively charged ion are there, so they will be discharged directly. Whereas in the electrolysis of sodium chloride, chlorine gas is liberated at the anode because its discharge potential is less than that of a hydroxyl ion, and hydrogen gas is liberated instead of sodium ions. Hydrogen gas is liberated at the cathode because the discharge potential of hydrogen gas is far less than that of sodium ions, and the sodium ions which are left over in the solution will combine with the hydroxyl ions present in the solution to give rise to NaOH or sodium hydroxide. Okay, let us see the diagram. Diagram is not given. Okay, forgot to mention. The summary of this lecture is, so far what we have covered in this lecture, we have seen first last class what we have learned in the last class, that is Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation we have recalled. Okay, we did again, and also the process of electrolysis we defined, and features of electrolysis we have learned, and now we have seen the process of electrolysis again. Process of oxidation reduction we have seen, where at which electrode oxidation takes place, at which electrode reduction takes place we have seen, and we have seen the electrolytic reactions of or electrolysis of fused sodium chloride and aqueous solutions of sodium chloride. Okay, let us try out a few quiz questions to strengthen our understanding. During the electrolysis of fused sodium chloride, reactions that occur at the anode is, what kind of reaction occurs at the anode? Chloride ions reduced, sodium ions oxidized, chloride ions are oxidized, sodium ions are reduced. See, negatively charged chloride ions, Cl minus ions, go to the anode. Okay, they lose their electrons and turn into Cl2 gas, neutral, from negative charge to neutral, loss of electrons. So loss of electrons is defined as oxidation. So C is the correct answer. Okay, during the electrolysis of sodium chloride, okay, chloride ions are oxidized at the anode. Oxidation takes place at the anode, and chloride ions are oxidized at the anode. Okay, about the completion of the period. Next topic, let us go for, okay, next topic, let us go for Faraday's laws of electrolysis. Okay, we'll learn the Faraday's laws of electrolysis, and also we'll try to learn the relation between chemical equivalent and electrochemical equivalent. Okay, first let us say, recapitulation. What are electrolytes? Okay, the substances which conduct electricity in the molten state or in the solution are called electrolytes. Okay, this passage of electricity is done due to the flow of ions. Examples of electrolytes are all acids, all bases, and all salt solutions. Okay, what is meant by electrolysis? Recapitulate. The process of decomposition of an electrolyte by passage of electric current through it is called as electrolysis. Okay, example 2NaCl gives 2Na plus Cl2, that has undergone electrolysis. Okay, now we'll go for the Faraday's laws of electrolysis. Faraday is a scientist who has conducted lots and lots of experiments. Okay, lots of experiments. Okay, one set of experiments he conducted was to pass electricity through electrolytic solutions and see the quantity of substances deposited or liberated at the electrodes. Okay, he carried out many reactions and noted down the results. And okay, he sat down and analyzed these results, and he tried to establish a relationship. He wondered whether there is any relationship between the electricity passed, quantity of electricity passed, and quantity of substance liberated or deposited at the electrode, liberated, deposited, or dissolved, okay, at the electrode. He tried to establish a relationship between the quantity of electricity passed through the electrolyte solution and the amount of substances deposited or liberated at the electrodes, amount of substances deposited or liberated at the electrodes. He tried to find out, he conducted many experiments and he analyzed the results of these experiments and he established a relationship between the amount of substance produced at the electrode, that is weight of the substance produced at the electrode, and the quantity of electricity Q passed through the electrolyte solution, and he expressed it in the form of a law which is popularly called as Faraday's first law of electrolysis. Faraday's first law of electrolysis. Faraday's first law statement: the amount of substance, this is how he expressed it. The amount of substance or the mass of the substance or quantity of the substance, any word you can use. Okay, the mass of the substance deposited or liberated or dissolved or underwent electrode reaction. See, at electrodes all these things can happen due to the passage of electricity. Okay, a substance may be deposited at the electrode, or it will be deposited in the solid form, or it may be liberated at the electrode like chlorine gas at the electrode, or it may dissolve at the electrode. Okay, or even undergo some electrode reaction, some sort of electrode reaction. All these things can happen, but usually we limit express that as deposited or liberated. Okay, so the first law can be defined as the amount of substance deposited or liberated, okay, at the electrode, deposited or liberated at an electrode is directly proportional to the quantity of electricity, directly proportional to the quantity of electricity passed through the electrolyte solution. Okay, directly proportional to the quantity of electricity passing through the electrolyte solution. Okay, it's something like this. Okay, if you have more flour, you can get more bread. Okay, more flour, more bread. Less flour, less wheat flour, less bread you will get. Okay, likewise this also states that if you pass more electricity through the solution, more quantities of substances will be liberated or dissolved or deposited at the electrodes. If you pass less quantity of electricity, okay, less amount of substances are deposited or liberated or dissolved at the electrodes. Okay, so this law is establishing a relationship. First law of Faraday is establishing a relationship between the quantity of electricity being passed through the electrolyte solution, okay, between the quantity of electricity being passed through the electrolyte solution and the amount of substance deposited or liberated or dissolved at the electrode. It's proposing a relationship. Okay, the statement is okay, Faraday's first law, alternate statement. The amount of substance deposited or liberated or dissolved or underwent electrode reaction at the electrode is directly proportional to the quantity of current strength or electric strength and time, quantity of current strength and time during which electricity is passed, quantity of current strength and time during which the electricity is passed. The first law can be mathematically expressed as okay, W is directly proportional to Q. Okay, W is directly proportional to Q, or to remove the proportionality we multiply with a constant. Okay, W is equal to EQ, where E is a constant called electrochemical equivalent. Okay, electrochemical equivalent. It's called as electrochemical equivalent. Okay, W is equal to EQ, but Q is the quantity of electricity passed is strength of current multiplied by time, strength of the current in amperes multiplied by time in seconds. Okay, so W is proportional to, since Q is equal to CT, substituting that we get W is directly proportional to CT, or W is equal to ECT, small ECT. This is the mathematical statement of first law of Faraday's law, where W is the amount of element produced at the electrode in grams. W is the quantity of substance deposited or liberated at an electrode. Quantity of substance deposited or liberated at an electrode. Okay, that is W. Okay, Q is the quantity of electricity passed in coulombs. Q is quantity of electricity is passed in coulombs. If strength of the current is given in coulombs directly, you can use W is equal to EQ. Or if it is given, C is the strength of the current in amperes. Okay, strength of the current in amperes, whereas T is equal to time in seconds. Okay, small e, that is constant, is electrochemical equivalent. Okay, this is constant. Electrochemical equivalent is a constant for a given element, and it varies from one element to another element. For example, zinc may have one value and copper may have different value, silver may have a different value, but wherever you take silver, its electrochemical equivalent will be constant. Likewise, wherever you take copper, its electrochemical equivalent will be constant. So, electrochemical equivalent depends upon the nature of the element or constant for a given element and differ from one element to the another. Okay, differ from one element to another element. Understand? Okay, W is equal to dCt is the mathematical expression of first law of Faraday. Let's try to define the electrochemical equivalent. For that, let us say, okay, W is equal to ECT, right? The expression is W is equal to ECT. Okay, where C is the strength of the current in amperes, T is the strength of the current, time in seconds for which electricity is passed. If 1 ampere, C is equal to 1 amp and T is equal to 1 second. Okay, 1 ampere of electricity is passed just for 1 second. Then W is equal to E into 1 into 1. That is equal to W becomes equal to E. Okay, multiplied by 1 will not change its value. Okay, so W is equal to E. That means okay, that means the amount of element deposited or liberated or dissolved at an electrode by passing 1 coulomb of electricity. 1 coulomb of electricity. So, electrochemical equivalent is the amount of substance deposited or liberated by the passage of 1 coulomb of electricity. Coulomb is amperes per seconds, amperes in seconds. So, 1 amp per 1 second is equal to 1 coulomb. 1 amp per 1 second is equal to 1 coulomb. So, we can define electrochemical equivalent as the mass of the substance deposited or liberated at the electrode by the passage of 1 coulomb or 1 ampere of current per 1 second. Okay, this is about the electrochemical equivalent. The unit of electrochemical equivalent is grams per coulombs or kilograms per coulombs. The unit is grams per coulombs or kilograms per coulombs. Okay, this is about the electrochemical equivalent. The significance of Faraday's first law. What can we do with Faraday's first law? Faraday's first law enables us to calculate the values of electrochemical equivalent of different elements. Okay, by conducting experiments. Okay, by conducting experiments, these electrochemical experiments, by noting down the quantity of electricity passed and weight of substance deposited or liberated the electrode, we can calculate the electrochemical equivalent of different substances from the Faraday's first law. Okay. Secondly, we can also calculate amount of different elements produced at the electrodes. We can also calculate how much of substance can be deposited or liberated by the passage of a certain quantity of electricity. Okay, that can also be calculated. Next, we will move on to Faraday's second law. Okay, Faraday's second law. So, what has Faraday done from his experiments? He established Faraday's first law, which tells the relationship between the quantity of electricity passed and amount of substance deposited or liberated at the electrode. Okay, it is quantity of electricity is directly proportional to, it states that the quantity of electricity is directly proportional to amount of substances deposited or liberated at the electrodes. If more electricity is passed, more substances will be deposited or liberated. Less quantity of electricity is passed, lesser amount of substance deposited or liberated. Okay, but Faraday also conducted lots of experiments, as I told you. Okay, he wanted to see, okay, amount of substance is directly proportional to quantity of electricity passed. So far so good, he said. But what will happen if I pass the same quantity of electricity through different electrolytes connected in series? Connected in series means connecting in series allows passage of the same quantity of electricity. So he conducted experiments, okay, based on the point that he wanted to check what will happen, how much of substances will be deposited or liberated by the passage of same quantity of substances, same quantity of electricity through different substances connected in series. What, what does the liberated substance, the liberated quantities depend upon what factor? Okay, what factor does the amount of liberated substances will depend upon? Okay, so the relationship between amount of element produced at an electrode and its chemical equivalent. Okay, second law seeks to establish okay, a relationship between the quantity of electricity passed through the electro okay, through the electrolyte solution and amount of element passed, released, or liberated or deposited. Okay, so it seeks it establishes a relationship between, okay, amount of element deposited or liberated and its chemical equivalent. Okay, so Faraday's last second statement is can be regarded as or discussed as when a definite quantity of electricity is passed through an electrolyte, the amount of element okay, produced at the electrode is directly proportional to its chemical equivalent or equivalent weight. When a okay, when some quantity of electricity is passed through electrolyte solution, the amount of substance produced or deposited is proportional to its chemical equivalent in the, okay. So otherwise, when the same quantity of electricity, it can be stated in another way. Okay, it can be stated in another way. When the same quantity of electricity is passed through different electrolytes connected in series. Connected in series need not mention, because when same quantity is being passed, they must have been connected in series. Okay, so you can omit that. So you can simply state that when the same quantity of electricity is passed through different electrolytes, the amounts of different elements produced at different electrodes is in the ratio of their chemical equivalents. Chemical equivalent is nothing but our equivalent weight, which the term which we use in the solutions. Okay, in the electrochemistry, the same equivalent weight which we used in the solutions becomes chemical equivalent. Here it is called as chemical equivalent, but it is nothing but equivalent weight. Okay, let's see an experiment. Okay, 3 electrolyte solutions are connected in series. Okay, copper sulfate, silver nitrate, and HCl, and same quantity of electricity is passed through them, and okay, so the 31.75 grams of copper is deposited, 108 grams of silver is deposited, and only 1 gram of hydrogen is liberated. So much of variation, 31.75, and here in silver nitrate 108 grams, in the hydrogen only 1 gram. Why so much of discrepancy? Okay, so this is because they are in the ratio of their chemical equivalents or equivalent weights. So 35.75 grams is equivalent weight of copper. Okay, here he passed same quantity 1 Faraday of electricity, so 31.75 grams of copper is deposited. Okay, and 108 grams, which is again chemical equivalent of silver, is deposited. 1 gram of hydrogen, the again equivalent weight of or chemical equivalent of hydrogen is deposited. Mathematically, we can express W is proportional to E. W is proportional to capital E. Capital E is a chemical equivalent, or you can say that W1 by E1 is equal to W2 by E2, or W1 by W2 is equal to E1 by E2, where W1 is amount of first element produced at the electrode, or mass of the first element produced at the electrode. W2 is the amount of second element produced at another electrode. Okay, E1 is chemical equivalent of first element, E2 is chemical equivalent of second element. We are taking two different solutions in two different vessels. Okay, so this is about the mathematical expression of Faraday's first law of electrolysis. Okay, chemical equivalent, the amount of substance deposited or liberated, okay, at an electrode by passage of 1 Faraday or 96,500 coulombs of electricity is called as a chemical equivalent. 1 Faraday or 96,500 coulombs of electricity is called chemical equivalent. It is represented by E. Okay, E is equal to atomic weight of element by valency of element. Equivalent weight can be calculated by atomic weight of element by valency of element. Faraday's second law ensures that formation of 1 gram equivalent weight of a substance at an electrode is by Faraday of electricity. 1 Faraday liberates 1 gram equivalent weight of a substance. Formation of equal gram equivalent weights of different substances at different electrodes when a given quantity of same quantity of electricity is passed through different electrode rates. Okay, that's the way I have seen in the definition. The number of gram equivalents of a substance formed at an electrode is equivalent to number of Faradays of electricity passed. Okay, 1 Faraday 1 gram equivalent, 10 Faradays 10 gram equivalents of substance, as simple as that. Okay, Faraday is the quantity of electricity required to produce 1 gram equivalent of substance at an electrode. Faraday means flow of 1 mole of electrons. It is the quantity of charge carried by 1 mole of electrons, that is Avogadro's number into charge of the electron, that is 6.02 into 10 to the power of 23 into 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19, that is comes to 96,500 coulombs. Okay, relationship between chemical equivalent and electrochemical equivalent. Electrochemical equivalent is equal to chemical equivalent by Faraday. Okay, this relationship we make use in solving the chemical problems. Okay, significance of Faraday's second law: to calculate equivalence weights, to calculate charge carried by an electron. All these things are from the second law. This can be achieved by Faraday's second law. Okay, we can calculate chemical equivalent weights of different elements or equivalent weights, chemical equivalents. We can also calculate the charge carried by an electron by Faraday's law. We can also calculate the value of Avogadro's number from Faraday's law. We can also calculate valency of an element. We can also calculate the number of electrons passed for the given quantity of substance deposited. Okay, all these things can be found out or calculated by following Faraday's first law of electricity. Okay, now what we have learned? We have learned electrolysis of fused sodium chloride, electrolysis of sodium chloride solution, Faraday's first law, Faraday's second law, and also the relationship between chemical equivalent and electrochemical equivalent. Okay, with this we conclude our lecture.